Alright. Let's hope that stays. I have a feeling my whole drill's gonna fall, but here's some gameplay of Gusher. Williams 1958. Debating whether or not I gotta upload some stuff to YouTube if I want to make a new channel and upload pinball stuff, but I think I'll just post this video, maybe a few others, and see if anyone has any interest in it. It took a while to get fully working. Probably gonna speak between balls, just because the bells are so loud on this. But essentially, the way Gusher works is it's the first one with the disappearing bumper that raises and lowers every time you get in one of the 3 kick-out holes or the activates bumper hole when you drain the ball here. Basically, when you hit the bumper when it's up, you get 100,000 points per hit, and it spots whatever number is lit in the selector. So right now, hitting the bumper would spot 5, 7, 9. I think it spotted 10 right before it scrolled over to 1. That selector advances every time you hit the lit bumpers here. It advances it 5 times. Draining advances it once, but most importantly, the red bumpers advance that selector once. So if you get it bouncing back and forth, you can get a lot of points. This is one of the few games that actually has a plastic where the ball travels under the plastic. When the bumper is in the down position, you just saw your ball's actually able to go over it and into the plastic that has a kicker arm that kicks it back over the bumper. The best thing to do on this table, you hit that top kickout hole while the bumper's up. If it shoots, just missed it. It can shoot into the kicker hole, and then the kicker hole can shoot right back up to the top hole. 3 back and forth. It's really fun to watch. Very difficult to win free games on this machine, because you need to get all numbers 1 through 12 out, which I'm missing 5, 7, 9, and 4, which is still possible. 11 and 12 are really hard because you can't get them off the selector, and you actually have to drain on the left and right sides. There's some nudging. Oh, straight. Bounce it straight into the gobble hole. I'm gonna check, make sure my phone's still getting any of this. Yep, look at that. Alright, so my final score. To read this, you just have your numbers to display which ones you collected out of 12. You read your score in millions, thousands, and thousands. So I don't have any 100,000s. I have 3,040,000 points. And the star pops up at the end of the game to see if it matches for your free game. If the star lands right below your 10,000 score, you win the free game. That's the match number back in the day. Very beautiful game. Plastics were pretty worked on it. I used an ironing board and an iron at my parents' house. Really flattened them out nice. This paint was already missing beforehand, so. Interesting thing to note about these early wood rails is the paint is actually above the plastic. On almost all pinball machines after this, the paint is actually underneath the plastic, but these early ones have them on top. I don't know if it was just Williams that did that, but something I found interesting. Well, I got 12 on one of my first 2 balls, which is nice. Oh, that was 2 numbers. I've noticed that happens quite often when you shoot over there. That's really a really nice shot. Ooh, got it back. Ooh, that was a nice bounce. Get some numbers off the spot, please. There's 4. Off the bumper. Ooh. Oh, crap. Now I'm going to have to drain this ball in 11 if I want any chance at getting all the numbers this time. that's how to do it. 1, 5, and 10. 5's pretty much the only one I can shoot with the flippers. I just missed. I noticed it's a little easier to get back up to the top with shooting it early. There's 10. I have a chance at it. Damn. Even then, this game's so cruel that you don't even get a special for getting numbers 1 through 12. You actually still have to hit a special after you get 1 through 12. Let's say I play one more real game on here and then show you kind of the innards and what's going on the inside of this machine, stuff I had to fix. Looks like my score this time is 4,350,000. So a little better than my 3,050,000 game from last time. I also have the replay score set at 5.5 million, 6.5 million, 7.5 million, 8 million, and 8.5 million. But interesting thing to note is I think I checked all those, but I only have 3 jacks plugged in for 5 scores. I think it's because regardless of what scorecard you put in, a replay at 8 million and a replay at 8.5 million it's just wired in to give you a replay at 8 million and 8.5 million points, no matter where you put your jacks. So I don't have the actual card to tell me where to put the score, the replay jack, so I just had to trial and error for it. The rod is still there for the tilt, but I didn't put a bobber on it. I'm sure I have a spare one, but that's something I don't really care about too much. It still tilts if you shake it hard enough. That's all that really matters to me. Well, let's see if it goes up. Oh, come on, get back in the hole. Damn. It's not entirely level either right now, but... Oh, there it is. Wherever I end up putting it, I'm sure it's going to mess with the level worse. So I'm pretty screwed on numbers. I'm not even doing any numbers worth. Both 11 and 12, so I'm great. This is definitely going to be a game on points if it's possible, because I've got most of my drains in the gobble hole. Oh yeah, let's go. Yeah, it didn't even go back in it after it went up there. That's fun. Best thing to get for points on this is just hitting that disappearing bumper when it's up. Because it spots you 100,000 every time you hit it. I'll try one more. You can't end on a bad game. That's not an option for people, or for at least me, I suppose. Not everybody is me, unfortunately. That'd be nice. Damn. I gotta get that plunge for activates bumper. Damn. Oh, you couldn't have at least fallen in there? That's the electromechanical double flip technique. You gotta have it a little more delayed than double flipping in a newer machine, because it just don't play as fast. Here, just hit the bumper. Come on. Oh, just missed it entirely. Like 11. Highly doubt it's going to happen, though. go early. Oh, damn. Really paid for that blunder. Oh. Up to 3 million. I got 2 balls left. Try and activate bumper. There we go. Wasn't ready to spot anything though. Damn. This will probably be the best game though. First replay is at 5.5, so almost $1 million to go for a replay, but. Got the mash. Okay, I'll end on that note. So, as a replay, 5,250,000, and since the star popped up right below 50,000, I got a free game for the match number. It's not really a match number, it's more of the match star in this case. But, let's take a look under the hood real quick. I don't have any fancy editing software or any kind of cool transition, so it's going to be me putting my phone on the table, turning on my headlamp light, and showing the innards of this machine and some of the issues that I experience here. My custom back door with a wonderfully superglued lock in place. Shout out to my grandfather for cutting that piece of board out to the size specs I sent him. But yeah, so pretty standard wood rail head. The relays to activate the 100,000s and the 10,000 point units. You also have the match unit to cycle where the match number sits. Not in order. Williams like to make them not in order, or at least I noticed that with Magic City as well. My bell unit, I so graciously, I think I added. I think it was missing the bell unit. At the very least, it was missing the coil. So I added a flipper coil and used the, I believe the hold side of the flipper coil. Because this is an older Williams model that runs on 50 volt coils instead of the normal like 24 volt coils that they used in pretty much every other electromechanical game, so it's really hard to come across the 50 volt coils. This coil's still fine too, which was very nice because I didn't want to have to figure out what that was. And this coil's been replaced, not by me. I just cleaned up the whole unit. I don't know if you were able to get any. Oh, you can kind of get a good view of how nice and shiny all the rivets are now, because this unit has like 96 steps to it. And then you also have the ball and play unit, because it's a little weird. Most of these old wood rails, especially single players, would just use 5 balls, and you'd lift 5 balls one at a time. But I'm assuming because Gusher is so oddly specific in that it has a disappearing bumper, and that it also has special features for being on the 5th ball, it needed the ball and play unit. Because imagine you have 5 balls in here and you're able to play multiple balls at a time. Well, if you do that, what if one ball goes in here and then another ball activates bumper? That bumper is going to come up and forever trap one ball under the plastic, and you're going to be absolutely screwed out of luck. So, because even like Reserve was made later by Williams and used 5 balls. So, but yeah, no, it's pretty beautiful game. Cleaned all the Jones plugs, all LEDs. Here's those adjustment jack prongs I was talking about. So I've got one up here, one, what is it? One space lower, and then one probably 2 spaces below that for the scorecard of 5 million, or 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, and then like I said, I think 8 and 8.5 are automatic, no matter what's plugged in. The only major issue I had that really kind of stumped me was initially when I had fixed everything, I had burnished all the contacts, cleaned absolutely everything. I was getting a replay almost every time I scored 100,000 points. It wasn't consistent. These outside rollovers would do it all the time, regardless, though. So I was thinking maybe it's related to the specials, because the specials light on the outside. No, it was actually these switches down here. It says bottom switch opens lock circuit on 100,000 relay. Top switch pulses replay step up. So like when you're about to win a free game, that switch stack on the 100,000 unit pulses the replay. So like you can see, what is it? Oh, there's a replay, one away, 5,400,000. Should be a replay at 5,500,000. So that switch now pulses the replay unit because you've passed the replay score set by the adjustment jack. But the thing was that I have a little piece of electrical tape wrapped around this middle piece of fish paper is what it's called. It's insulation. So basically, when I would push this, the bottom of that switch would touch the top of this switch. And that was never meant to be. That's why they had that piece of fish paper in there. But over time, this machine was made in 1958, so there's actually a tiny little hole that's eaten into the fish paper there. And that hole's just enough for that bottom switch here to short with the top switch here. And that would give you replays regardless of whether or not you had actually made 5.5 million points or whatever. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and pop it under the hood. And I know that's not a good view. Give me a second. This glass is also really poor too. The front of it's a little too big, so it's kind of hard to lift the glass out. That was actually the least labor intensive it's ever been, so that's nice. Okay, so lift the field all the way up and out, which is nice on these early games. I was working on a Bally machine from the 70s that is even harder to work on than this because they don't have the rails going all the way to the side. And they don't even make the cords long enough to put it up like this without unplugging them. It's so bad. But anyways, let's see what I've done with this. I believe I put a brand new power cord on here. No, I didn't. Okay. That's already wrong, but score motor, completely clean, every contact clean and adjusted. This score motor specifically, I was a little worried I would have to replace because there's a little play. See, I can wiggle the whole thing around like that. There's a little play no matter where it sits. It's not stripped, the gears aren't bad, nothing. It's just probably been really worn out and probably been played a lot. So I just adjusted every switch. Since this is a small score motor, there's only switch stacks that are only too big, so, or too tall. So I just adjusted every switch to account for whether it's low or whether it's high. So it can't be wrong no matter what. Overrode the lock relay as I always do because it's pretty much useless and I'll be having every machine eventually plugged into a surge protector anyways. If you're curious how to do that, you just take the two switches, at least on a Williams, take the two switches under here. I just have these two completely bent open and the lock relay unclipped so it doesn't fry any further. The two switches that are supposed to close, the wire going to those two switches, tie them both together and solder, a little shocky, solder them both together and you should be good. This is also that vintage of Williams that has the extra fuse holder that is unoccupied purposefully. And these early 60s Williams, or this one's 1958, but I've seen it up to like Nags 1960, that has these 4 fuses in it, or four fuse holders, because one of them you can't use. See, that middle one says low line, and then the other one says 50 volts, 10 amp. One says line and the other one says 10 amp. Basically, that's the way of changing the transformer to high tap, is moving that central fuse from the middle left holder to the middle right holder. I don't have mine high tapped because I don't need to. Everything plays just fine, but that was how they did high tap instead of actually moving the lug on the transformer. If you put fuses in both the lines, they should blow immediately. and you're going to be really confused, scratching your head. I put new fuses in. Why is this fuse blowing? Well, it only takes one fuse. You can eventually decipher that if you look at all the schematics. But speaking of schematics, this machine had one really nagging problem that was, I just figured it out. But essentially, it would be where if you drain your fifth ball in the gobble hole, which, if you drain your fifth ball in the gobble hole, it will go over this switch again to advance after it lands in here. It goes over this switch again to advance the balls played to game over, but it won't actually energize the game over relay. Whereas if you drain your last ball in the final hole, activates bumper, it would energize the game over relay when it went over here, but the match number would come up while the 50,000 points from the bumper going up and down was going. So if your match number, I'll just say it like this. If your match number was here and your 50,000 points counted up anywhere through the 10, you'd get the free game, even though you didn't actually earn it and it didn't actually stop on it. So that was a really confusing problem, because these problems are always so confusing, because when I take these games apart and redo them, I clean absolutely everything. You can see every single trip bank switch, or all the numbers, has been cleaned and adjusted. You can tell because the points are silver, because I buzz them with my little nice Dremel bit. Then all the rollover switches are the exact same. I don't touch the tilt switch, I suppose, but even the bumpers are cleaned and adjusted. You can see that there's barely even any gap there for the ball to hit the bumper. I take out all that cruddy grease that's built up in all these spoon switches, deep creep on all the slingshots, the flippers especially, get completely tightened down, end of stroke cleaned. You hear how violent all of my kickers are. But the disappearing bumper, the disappearing thumper bumper unit here, you get in the hole, it activates the hole relay. I don't know why they labeled it hold. It's hole relay in the schematics. That was confusing to me. But it activates this relay. It struggles a little bit when it's not upright. There we go. And that moves the whole bumper up and down. But that was the big problem, because see here on this little piece of paper, it says inside switch motor run, center switch opens circuit to game over relay, outside switch opens circuit to bumper lights. And I had initially adjusted these to be, exactly what this is doing. Exactly what this card says. And the thing is, this card is right. This switch closes, the inner switch, to energize the disappearing bumper motor. You can see it spark when it ends. And then that inner switch opens to game over, and that outer switch opens to bumper lights. I had it adjusted to do just that, but the thing was, it looked like original solder. They even had the original little things, these little things, around the lugs. So I didn't figure it was tampered with, but it was tampered with. It wasn't giving me, it's because that switch wasn't opening for game over, that it would give me game over immediately when it went down the hole, and never when I went in the gobble hole. My best way I can explain it is I went and looked at my really old beat up copy of the schematics that I got, and I looked specifically at the 3 places on here that have when this bumper motor runs, and then I looked at the wire colors before and after. So this one says before is gray black and after is 50, which I think with the coloring code on here, 50 is white with no trace, which isn't terribly distinguishable from yellow and gray with no trace at this age of game, but it still was enough for me to figure it out. And put everything back to the order they needed to be, which left me with this spare wire I helpfully labeled not X needed. It's blue with black trace and goes straight up to the opening switch right here on the whole relay. I'm assuming somebody might have added this post-production, because the same blue with black trace is hanging out over here and isn't really wrapped in with anything else. So I'm assuming maybe somebody else wired this in thinking that that's what they needed to make the game work, which I would have probably gotten to that point too if I just wanted the game to work, but I wanted it to be complete. I wanted it to not give me a match number when I didn't deserve it, and not go to game over when it goes to the gobble hole. It still cut the power to the flippers, because when it goes the ball in, I can't talk. When the ball count unit advances to its final step, it cuts the power to the ball release coil, but it needs to have this switch closed as well to go to game over, which, since it wasn't closed properly, it would either always do or never do, because these wires were completely screwed up from where they're soldered on now. I even had to move this inner switch spacer further out to get, like the bumper light going out right there. I had to move that switch spacer into a different position just to make that outside switch break. And that little white thing I have around the metal, that's an old T-post. I cut the top off T-posts and often use them to kind of space switches out. Mainly the reason I did it here was because this entire piece of metal has power going to it via these two blue wires, and that power going to this entire frame is just to give this little nub, this little finger, a circuit to these wires coming out. So I didn't want the power in this frame shorting to the switches here. That's why I added the rubber and a little bit of electrical tape around the inner motor run switch. But yeah, besides that, tripping for all your numbers and start, thumper bumper relays. Oh, they're not going to go because the game's over right now. But yeah, start a new game. Hit the start button on the front. Ball goes over. I can do something really cool. Whoop! Got it. Anyways, hope this was a pretty in-depth view on Williams Gusher. Oh, one more thing. So funny. I kind of want to leave this in here for this. I've seen people override tilt switches by putting a bunch of electrical tape and shit. Because all it is you shake the machine, it tilts. Everyone gets that. But someone put a used cigarette butt and slid it up right here, so it wouldn't tilt the game. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I thought that was so cute. I'll probably leave that in the game just to remind myself that's what was in here. Oh, one more thing. One of the bells was absurdly loud. Yeah, the big gong that's in the back there. Every time you get 100,000 points, that thing goes off. Where's 500,000 relay? Yeah. You think that's loud now? It was way worse, and it's... Oh, it's probably... There it is. There's the thing. This unit. A plunger with a bolt screwed into it, and the head filed off. Yeah, you ever want to hit something really hard? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was in the gong bell, so like have that big clink to it and hit it a lot harder than that. So replace it with the normal plunger that has a plastic tip instead of metal. And this thing would eventually flange out too and make it unusable. So yeah, that's Gusher. Hope you all enjoyed. I'm not gonna say leave a like and shit like that. I'm not gonna be a YouTuber. I'm just gonna upload this to YouTube because most of the footage of pinball machines on the internet is pretty old, I will say. And I would have killed for anyone to just give me a picture of where the wires are going on this thumper bumper. I could have asked around on the internet. I could have made some kind of effort to figure it out. But hey, I still figured it out on my own, and sometimes that feels a little better. So, oh, might I also mention the cabinet is in just beautiful shape on this thing. I took the metal because people would put metal over these wooden rails as well to hide that it was an older machine, because once the metal siding came out, nobody wanted to put quarters in the older outdated wood rails, so they hid them with metal. But yeah, this cabinet is in stellar condition. Oh, and to top it all off, the coin door on the front here still has the original Williams manufacturing company stamp thing on it. So beautiful game, beautiful player. Probably not my absolute favorite. I think it probably is a little overrated for being the first with the disappearing bumper. Oh, real quick. I still have to show how all the specials work. So you get numbers 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. And you have specials lit once you have all 12 numbers. Now, the way the specials work on here is if the bumper is up, you have a special in each outlane. So that gives you a free game, and that gives you a free game while the bumper's up. While the bumper's down, those turn off. You also have a special always lit in the gobble hole, and that actually depends on where the position of the selector is. That's not actually obvious in the game. It's only obvious to me as the repair person. So currently the gobble hole is worth 1 special. When the selector is on 8 or 9, the gobble hole is worth 2 specials. But when the selector is on 10 or 1, it is worth 3 specials. So about 1/5 the time it's worth 2, 1/5 the time it's worth 3, and then the rest of 2 through 6, the other 3/5 of the time, it's only worth 1. So currently it's 500,000 and 3 free games. Yep, 3 free games. Went from 3 to 6 on my credit reel. But also, the only way to get a... we'll have to look at those bumper lights. I bet that's on that disappearing bumper. So you're going to do the same thing here. Interesting. But only on the 5th ball does the center kicker light for special. I have these super bright Optimax LEDs in there. They're not super blinding on the in the actual person, but over the phone it looks like it's melting the plastic. So that's the only way to get a special without losing the ball, because you lose it down the sides and you lose it in the gobble hole. But only on ball 5, having all the numbers out with the bumper down, special in the kicker hole. Man, I'm so good. I'm so good at this. Wouldn't you agree? See, it wasn't lit for special because it was still lit in the kicker hole. It just alternates between outlane and kicker hole once you're on ball 5. But yeah, there's all the rules to Gusher. God, I can't end for shit. People always apologize for their outros and stuff. Imagine just not being able to stop recording. But shit, I gotta go fix that guy's Bally machine. His bumper was entirely broken, so I found him a replacement, and I gotta go to Waverly now. So
sale in the future.